presented by Dano's Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
Welcome into the Sunbelt Syndicate podcast. My name is Dominic Crescetto. With me is TJ Corman, the other co-host, as we try and provide you with some Sunbelt action and coverage. See our promo code for Dano's Seasoning below, Doggos. Type that in when you go to checkout. That helps out all of us here at College Football Dogs. As dogs, we are hungry. We like to eat, and maybe this could put some food on the plate. So with that being said, TJ, how are we doing today?
Good, man. College football is back, and I am ecstatic. We had week 0 just this past week. I know Navy gave us a little bit of a letdown, as you will. But we at least got some taste of some football. Can't wait for some more this weekend coming up. And then obviously NFL, some preseason stuff as well. So excited to be back in the fold, man. Excited to really, really get going and hit the ground running.
Absolutely. Same here. And to help explain a little bit of what we're going to be doing and try to do as a team is why you should listen to us is we are going to try and cover the complete conference for you guys. So even if you're a little bit of an outsider, don't have a specific Sunbelt team you care for, you should probably check this out because the Sunbelt has been coming up here recently. They've got some really exciting teams. If you want your more specific stuff for your team, obviously you still listen to those guys out there, the Black and Golds, Thundercast, Monarchist, Rage and Review. There's many others that do a great job covering their team specific. We're trying to add to that by covering the full array. So we'll probably give a little bit more, as TJ and I were talking about before the show, a little bit more of an overview without getting into all of the nitty gritty stuff. But I do want to talk about one aspect that I think will differentiate us from some other shows. First of all, the video aspect, as you see now if you're watching this one, but also a little bit of what TJ can provide us when we look at breaking down a little bit of game footage. I think that should be a little bit of an interesting aspect that we could probably do here with this. So, TJ, we did screen grab from the Navy Notre Dame game. And let's see if I can get this up and running for us here. There we go. All right. Yeah. Struggle through it with us for just a few minutes as we get this going for the first time. We will get better at this as we go along. So, TJ, if you want to set the scene here for us and just tell us anything you can about the play, and I'll rewind when we need to go back and show these things again.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, the box doesn't get any lighter than this on third down. Obviously, passing down for most teams, what we're looking at here. But, I mean, you've got 3 down linemen. You're looking at 3 linebackers and 5 DBs. I mean, this screams run, right? This screams, let's get the ball and hand it to our best player. So you'll see as the play goes along here, again, super light box. It looks like sort of a 4 high coverage from the initial snap of the ball, but you'll see your corner immediately bail out once that tight end goes in motion here, immediately bails. Look at the coverage. Look at your outside linebacker lose leverage. First of all, immediately gives his gap away. And then, that opens up a huge running lane for the big running back coming through. Easy gain to say. If he stayed on his feet, he probably could have gotten a lot more, but the box doesn't get any lighter than that in terms of running the football. So perfect call by Notre Dame. They knew exactly what the defense was going to give them. They lined up. Navy gave it away from a pre-snap perspective. Even if a pass was called, elementary school quarterback could have seen to check that. So light box, screams run the entire time. And those kinds of situations, like I said, you've got to know the situation down the distance, right? It's not 3rd and 15 or 3rd and 30. You don't give them 10 yards. So, immediately, like I said, linebacker jumps out of his gap. It was blown from the beginning. So, Notre Dame did exactly what they were supposed to do in that regard.
Remind me, I want to be sure. Scott Satterfield was your OC when you were at App, right?
Yes, sir. The brilliant Scott Satterfield. Yep.
And he was famous for doing these types of run plays on like third. He would even do it on like 3rd and 12. I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe you could explain the fact of why that works, right? I guess something to the fact that, or the effect that if you don't make it, you are maybe going to punt anyway. But this could at least get your punter some room. And then if you make it, obviously a lot of people, like you were saying, maybe you don't see it coming. Is that kind of you're playing a little bit of both things there? Or what, maybe you could explain it better as a player who's been on the field.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's two things, right? It's the first thing is obviously the element of surprise. Obviously, passing down 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15, generally speaking, it's a passing down. But I mean, two, you got to play the coverage, right? You see what you're going to get out of the backfield. I mean, again, Navy gave them a 4 or 5 high look. I'm always going to run the football against that. I mean, there's 100% chance that I'm going to run the football against that. And two, depending on where you are on the field, I mean, if I'm across my 50-yard line, you think about, if I'm going to run it on that down, then there's a good chance that I'm going to probably get a good chunk, 7 or 8 yards. I'm probably going for it on 4th down. So it sets yourself up to really, you don't go into those plays with just one play involved, right? Or one play in mind. You always go into it with, if this happens, then what? What do we do next? Again, if, they stop the run for some reason, you can always rely on punting the ball on 4th down. But, those unexpected passing downs where they give you a light box and they give you, again, Navy looked like they had 4 or 5 safeties or corners high. It looked insane. I would not recommend that coverage at all.
And as we were talking about, Estime just had a game, like you said. He looks bigger than his statistics. Not his statistics. What am I saying here? His measurements. There we go.
Yeah, his measurements. Yeah, I mean, they got him listed at 5'11", 227. He looked every bit of 235, 240. He's probably not 240, but he looked like a man. I mean, the first guy never tackled him. It was insane. I mean, I watched the whole game from start to finish, and it's funny because my granddad was here. He's retired Navy, and he's just like, he said we got nothing for him. This is going to be. I mean, we knew it from the first. I mean, we turned it on, and my granddad first said, "Looks like they're about to go 80 yards on the first drive." I said, "Yeah, it appears so." So yeah, they didn't have much for him. We didn't get a chance to evaluate Sam Hartman as much as I'd like to, because he didn't have to do much, right? I mean, take what you're taking what the defense gives you. They give you a light box the entire game. You run the football. So he did have some flashes, a couple good throws to his tight ends, a couple good throws to some. I think it was 2 passing touchdowns, which
I think so.
Pretty good. Again. Navy's not the measuring stick game, obviously, that you want in that perspective. But overall, Notre Dame looked pretty good. Yeah,
pretty good against kind of a weaker opponent. Hopefully, most of these Sun Belt teams could have beaten Navy in that one, but we shall see. I don't think, if I remember right, reading through everything, I don't think anybody actually plays Navy this year. But we do have the Citadel and Army on some of the schedules, so we do have some certain.
Actually, excited about that. Yeah. Want to see how that goes.
Yeah. I'm sure you want to see the Citadel lose from your playing days back at App.
Absolutely. I've got some. My uncle's a former Army veteran, or is an Army veteran. So, obviously would like to see Army win, but again, Coastal or Citadel. Sorry, not a team that I ever would root for. So
yeah, and that place was hot, man. Cool little stadium down there, though. I will mention that it's definitely kind of a cool look to it. It's not something you see. Yeah. We'll see how that one goes for Georgia Southern as they kick off their season against Citadel. There. This is kind of our first try of a segment here. As we get into this, we're going to call it our 2-minute drill. Kind of some quick hitters. So we're not going to give a ton of explanation on all these, but TJ will start off. And there will be no official clock this time around, so we'll just kind of stick roughly to some kind of 2-minute drill. Does Troy repeat as Sun Belt champions?
I think no. I think historically in the Sun Belt there's been some variety in terms of teams. I mean, history tells us that it's tough to repeat in this conference, especially since the teams at Coastal, JMU, Georgia Southern has moved into it. It's been tough to repeat. I think talent-wise, there's a lot going on, especially on the eastern side of the bracket. There's a lot of things that are going to be shaken up for us. Short answer is no. I don't think they repeat.
I agree with you. I think there was too many close games that went Troy's way last year, and I think it's one of those factors. Like, do enough of those stay that way or they flip. So
Right.
I've got a little bit of a surprise. Now, to my credit, I called Troy winning the West last year. From my notes, I was the only one out of all the big production, 12 locations, that called Troy winning. And I'm not sure I saw them doing it quite how they did it, but I just don't see them replicating that, like you said, talent. So you also started to allude to the next question, which was which side of the conference is stronger? And I think so. You've started there, but just reiterate anything you want to from that aspect of things.
Yeah, East is in my opinion stronger. Obviously, you've got Troy and you've got Louisiana and
Alabama.
South Alabama is pretty good. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, in the East, Coastal, App State, Georgia Southern, JMU. it's littered on the Eastern bracket with Marshall, and we can. Honestly, we could keep going. The Eastern side. Georgia State is pretty good, and will get better. Shout out to Sean Elliott, Coach Elliott, from my App State playing days. But I do think, like I said, Eastern side of the bracket. It's just so tough, right? And two, to that point, it's much harder. It's a much harder road in the East. So when you get to that conference championship level, or that conference championship game, you've been beat up. So the West does have sort of a leg up as it relates to that, because there is such a gauntlet to go through on this Eastern side.
Yep. I agree with you. I'm going to take the East. The West may have the champ, and that's not saying that the West isn't good. I just think, like you said, we're top heavy in the East. We only got one or two kind of stragglers, and they kind of consistently had 3 or 4 teams on that West side that have been kind of bad. So their good teams are fine on the West side. I think there's just more of them in the East. So I do agree with you there. So how many bowl games does the conference get this season? They did have 7 in 2022. I don't know what you're thinking there. And as a reminder to our viewers, JMU is once again ineligible. So even if they have the record to get there, they won't be allowed. So that could be taken away from that. But TJ, what are your thoughts on 7, less, more? What are you thinking?
If you think about it, we're kind of right around that same number. I've got 6. I've got Coastal. I've got App. I've got Georgia Southern. I've got Louisiana. I've got Alabama State.
South Alabama.
South Alabama and Troy.
Thinking of that team down there in Alabama State. Is they in the SWAC? Are they a SWAC team?
I think they're SWAC.
Okay.
Down there with
maybe they'll join the conference. Who knows? Maybe it's one of those.
Maybe.
But
I've got us good for 6.
Okay. I think 6 is a definitely solid number. I'm actually going to stick with the 7, just because I think, App was right there last year, right? They had the amount of wins. It's just because they had those 2 FCS victories that they didn't count. But I think this conference rebounds well and gets back to 7 again. At least I'm hopeful that there's at least 7. Heck, hopefully there's 8. But, I'm going to stick with 7 for a prediction there. So let's go to our biggest turnaround this season. Who you got to – I don't know. It doesn't even have to be specific just wins. It could be just how they look in general. But who do you have going into this season?
I'm looking for Georgia State to turn it around a lot more from a talent perspective. They're building, right? They're working towards being competitive in this league and really making a name for themselves. I really have high hopes for Coach Elliott down there with those guys. Super, super ecstatic to see them do well and really want them to come up. So turnaround teams, my hope is Georgia State.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going to hope that Georgia State doesn't turn it around quite as much, only because I'm taking our hometown favorite here at App State, and I'm thinking that mainly on the win total is where they're turning it around. I think they could have easily won 3 or 4 of those games that they lost last year. So I think, it's not going to be a surprise. It's not like this team's coming from irrelevancy or anything, obviously, with the history that they've got. But I do think that their win total is going to jump up quite a bit this year. I think stuff plays into their favor. Maybe the team that's kind of seen as not being the favorite is kind of pissed off about that, to be honest with you. So I think that could be an aspect of this season that we see from App State. They're hungrier and they're got a little bit more fire than they've had here in recent years when they've kind of been that favorite on the top of the totem pole. So let's go to the reverse of that. Who's your biggest letdown? Who do you think is dropping off a little bit or not performing as well as they should?
I don't want, again, low hanging fruit. I don't want this to sound negative. I don't think Troy repeats. So I do have them as, again, like I said, I mean, I said it in the first segment. It's so hard in this league to repeat. There's so many good teams, and there's so many, and then you got your surprises, obviously, not huge surprises, but it's just really, really tough to repeat in this league. So I say take a step back. I don't mean that in a negative way. I just, they maybe Troy's 1 or 2 wins away from what they were last year.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, if you look at their quarterback position, Gunnar Watson there, he threw a good amount of touchdowns. He also threw a heck of a lot of interceptions.
A lot of interceptions, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's one of those things that can flip a game real quickly and easily. And with those close ones, they could flip. That's a great pick, honestly. That's one that win total wise could certainly be an aspect of why they fall.
Well, and two, a couple of those games that they won, like we talked about before the show aired. I mean, a couple of those games could have went either way. Yeah. And a lot of those, you talked about interceptions, they were overcome because of his athleticism and because of the athleticism of the team. However, you're going to run into some teams who are equally as athletic, and those outcomes might not be the same as they were last year. So, I mean, you're talking about those mental mistakes, those mental errors that they were making. I don't know that they overcome them as well as they did the year prior.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with that at all. They lost a lot, on the defensive side of the ball as well, which we'll probably talk about a little bit once we talk about them for the season. I'm going to go with my biggest letdown being James Madison. I think they had one heck of a quarterback in Centeio last year. I think they caught lightning in a bottle. Maybe they have that again, but to me, it's too early to say that, they just caught fire at the right time with the right personnel last year. I think it's going to be hard for them to replicate that. They've also been in this conference for a whole season now. There's a whole lot more game film and schematics that they now have on this coach they may not have known as much about before. So I think they put some stuff out there. They're going to know how this JMU team runs their offense a little more, be better prepared on the defensive side of the ball. I think JMU falls off a little bit, which honestly for them really isn't a bad thing. If you're going to fall off, this is the season to do it when you can't.
I was going to say this is the year to do it when I don't want to say it doesn't count as much, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, excuse me, JMU fans aren't going to love to hear that, but that's just my prediction. But I'm also with you. I think Troy's another one that kind of falls off. And as we get into this part of previewing the season and some week 1 matchups, we want to remind you again down below, Doggos, the code at danosseasoning.com. We'll get you a little ad here as we go into the next segment.
Yum, yum, get you some. Very good. Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some.
Dano Seasoning, food's favorite flavor.
Yum, yum, get you some.
I'm Joe Burrito, your favorite burrito. Whoa, whoa.
Joe, we all know you're the best.
What?
But you can always do better.
What you got?
Try the new Dano's Hot Chipotle.
Hey. Ooh, that's spicy. Yum, yum.
Yum, yum, get you some.
Gotta love that.
I'm never gonna get used to it. It's never gonna not be creepy to me. Dancing chickens, talking burritos. Hey, whatever. It works.
It does work in the weirdest way. And the flavoring's got to be what makes it dance like that, right? I mean, that's why they're dancing. Yeah.
I do. I smoke a lot of meats, and Dano's has certainly been there for me. So I highly recommend them.
Absolutely. I still got to get me some, as the ad says. So I'm working on that. I don't have a Walmart that's all that close to me, actually, as weird as that is. I have a Target right down the road, but not a Walmart. No free ads, though. No free ads here. We're not saying go to either one. But, you can find Dano's at Walmart is what I hear. So
that is the fact.
And if not, you can use the promo code below to order online. There you go.
There you go.
All right.
Nice little play.
So, So as we get into this, I guess we'll just go down the east side first. Or do you want to do the west? I'll leave it up to
whatever.
You. All right. So alphabetically, it gives me the east first, and App State's the first team up. So why don't we jump into them? I'm going to see if I can share this screen again.
Yeah. Oh, I don't expect much out of Gardner Webb. I'll tell you that. With all due respect, I played against them when I was at App myself. not a team that I expected us having a whole lot of trouble with. However, that doesn't mean that they are not formidable in their own right. But I do have us, pick pretty easily to roll that over.
Yeah, I think I mostly agree with that. See if there we go. I was wondering where this thing went. There is their schedule there for you watching the stream. I mostly agree with that. I will say that looking into it, Gardner-Webb can put up some points offensively.
Yeah,
so
they can
I think
score.
they'll be a little. Yeah, I think they'll be a little dangerous there in the first half. I just think this is one of those classic FCS versus FBS. The depth's too much, and it wears them down towards the end. I could also see App struggling a little bit offensively just to start this game. They've got a new signal caller, not necessarily new. I mean, Berger was there last year, but
I was going to say
started
new
the game. So
right.
Yeah, so we'll go down. And if we have different opinions, that's fine. People at home can keep the tallies if they want to have us go head to head. What do you think about the next week? We'll both be at this one. So the North Carolina game in Chapel Hill. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think, and you and I talked about this a bit before, really Drake May is the one that scares me the most, and as he should, right? I mean, nationally ranked. I mean, he's probably top 2 or 3 quarterback in the country. You've got Caleb out of USC, and you got some other guys. I know Sam Hartman, we just talked about him, didn't do a whole lot against Navy, didn't have to. But I do think, just if I'm being honest, Drake scares me, but the rest of their team does not, right? I'm not super threatened by their defense for sure. I do think we can put up some points against them. So it'll come down to really, I think it'll be one of those nip and tuck games. At least that's my hope. But I got us pulling it out, obviously, at the end. So I'm going with the home team.
Well, the away team, right? Or the Yeah. I know what you meant. I know what you meant, but we got to tell these other guys that aren't App fans, we got to be clear on that one.
That is fair. Good point. We are not home guys. We're at North Carolina.
That's true. I am, I don't want to put this, but I did put it down on paper because I'm playing with my head more than my heart. I want to agree with you. I'm going to agree with you when it comes down to actually being there for this game. But mentally, I'm saying they got a tough game against South Carolina the week before. Down in Charlotte, I think that they lose that one, to be quite honest with you. So I think trying to rebound from that, playing in the confines of home, they won't have a ranking, unfortunately, if that's the case. So App won't have a shot at a ranked team. So it's not going to hurt my feelings if they end up winning the game. I'd love to be wrong on both things here, but I'm going to play devil's advocate and say that it's a loss. But again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're right. Yeah. I'm going to be, there and cheering for it the other way. So then third straight in-state opponent here. We've got East Carolina coming to Boone for the first time in what feels like forever. What are your thoughts on the Pirates?
Yeah, I like the Pirates. I do think that they're a quality team. I think they're going to want to have some get back, right, for what we did to them down in Charlotte a couple years back. I don't think they have enough. I don't think their skill players match up with us. I mean, they're too fast. Up front, they can't. I don't know that their offensive line is formidable as much as it should be against our D line. Skill players. I mean, I think we outmatched them from that perspective. I'm going with App in that game as well. I sound like a super homer right now, but just looking at what I'm looking at, and just looking at the landscape of things, I don't see East Carolina being ready, right? I don't. Right. I mean, again, they're getting better. I actually had a cousin of mine, Macy O'Donnell, who played at East Carolina last year. Special teams guy. He's pretty good. Like I said, I mean, they've got some quality talent on their team. I don't know that they have enough of it, right, to put up with us for 4 quarters. It'll be close first half, even going into the third quarter, but I think ultimately we pull away and we take that one home.
Yep. I'm gonna follow that up with a real quick yes. W. I think, again, kind of like the Carolina thing with South Carolina. If we end up losing to Carolina, I think we come home and we try and hammer home the point that we're here to play. So then they travel to Wyoming. I think that's a tough matchup, a little bit scary, and it could be a surprise. I've got that one as a loss just because, be honest, App historically has not done well traveling that distance. and then honestly, Wyoming, I think elevation wise is higher than Boone is. So it might, a couple of factors play to Wyoming's favor there. What do you think about that one?
Yeah, I think I do have us. So I got us with 2 losses. I don't know where those 2 losses are going to come from. I do think if I had to pick, Wyoming would be one of them. Like you said, travel distance, travel time. I mean, that's going to be rough. That's going to be super rough. We talked about it on our last show last week. Sleep patterns, those kinds of things, time zone differences. It's tough. It's tough to play in those kinds of environments. So I do think if we were to lose one, Wyoming is a unfortunate but good place to lose. So so I unfortunately have us taking an L there.
Yeah, I don't think we disagree on the fact that, if you're going to lose 1 or 2 games, do it at a conference.
Right. Yeah.
Save everything for conference play. Yeah. You don't want to lose to anybody ever. Everybody knows that. But if you're going to drop one, not the worst. So they hopefully rebound there after that. I got a win against the ULM Warhawks. I don't think they're going to be quite where they want to be just yet. So sticking with that, I think you probably agree with me on that one.
Yep, same.
Yeah, not too much deep concern there. So we'll kind of quickly cover that one. And then we got the matchup that we were both at last year in Conway. This year it'll be on, I think it's a Tuesday night up in Boone. What are you thinking about the matchup with them and Coastal this year?
Yeah, I think it's going to be tough. Coastal's got a lot of good guys returning. I don't think a lot of them left last year, so they'll pose a good threat to us on defensively. I think last year we should have beaten them. There's a lot of things that we did not do from a mistake, point of view that we should have. I got us winning that game for some get back, some revenge at home. My hope is I can be there, but we'll see how that goes. I got to check in with the wife. I'm going to a lot of games this year, so I got to make sure, things are right with her. But I do have us winning that game. I got us getting some get back, and at home, I think it makes a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. That's to me, that's the biggest factor. If this is a Saturday game, totally different thought process, but it's a Tuesday at home in Boone.
Right.
I got to favor the home team. Regardless
and traditionally,
of whether it's my team or not.
Right. Well, and traditionally, we do really well midweek and at night. We've even back to my playing days. I mean, we loved a night game on a Thursday was awesome because the rest of the weekend started after that. So I do think traditionally we do really well midweek, especially night games. The atmosphere is insane. It's always rocking, which. Any weekend game, any game at App State is always rocking, but especially those midweek ones. So I got us pulling that one out.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Old Dominion, the very next week, that one's up there in Norfolk area. What do you think on the Monarchs coming into this year and the threat they could pose to App?
I do think they're getting better. I don't think that they're quite ready yet. I do have us winning that game. Not in blowout fashion, obviously. I do think they're going to be tough, but I've got us winning that game.
Nice. Southern Miss, I got this one again. It's hard not to stumble, right? And this is a team that's got a lot of promise. They got a quarterback. They've got Frank Gore Jr. They've got a defense that's gone really. They used to call themselves and still do, I guess, call themselves the Nasty Bunch for a reason. So I actually have, unfortunately, again, this is the heart. I mean, this is the head, not the heart talking.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to lose to a team that also calls them their place of home, the Rock. I don't want to lose to a team that's going to say we're the real Rock. But that's already the argument they try and make. So unfortunately, I have them coming in and kind of shocking us. They did that last time we ended up playing. Hopefully it doesn't happen. But I don't know what you think about that matchup versus the Golden Eagles there.
Yeah, so I'm opposite with you on that. I don't think I think because it has already happened, it's already on the radar, right? It'd be different if it was a first time kind of thing. It's almost I equate it to shocking a team. And again, I go back to the Michigan game. You and I both agreed that we could have probably beat Michigan a bunch more just because we were better. But I do think we shocked them, right? I think it was that all factor. the first two quarters. I think they probably would have played us a little bit tougher had they known what they were going up against. But because Southern Miss has already done this to us before, there's no more shock value. I think now we go in, we understand what we do. Now, again, time zones, and that whole deal, travel, I think that might play some into it. But I think ultimately we know we're a better team and should win. I think we will.
Gotcha. Just maybe speed this up a little bit as far as us trying to make it through all these teams. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, I have 4 straight W's to end the season. So I know you didn't like some of my loss predictions, but I've got us beating Marshall, Georgia State, James Madison, and Georgia Southern, some revenge factor, and ending up with about a 9-3 record overall, 7-1. What are your thoughts on those final 4 games there? If you differ from me at any point there.
No, I think we're about the same. Georgia Southern scares me. I think the 2 losses that I had, we're at Georgia Southern, correct?
No, this one is at App, and they are retiring your favorite quarterback, Armonte.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, I did know that. I'll be there, as a matter of fact. I don't know why I forgot that. I'll be there. I'll be there at that game. At home, I got us winning against Georgia Southern. Again, my only 2 losses, I had us losing 2 games. I didn't know where the 2 were going to come from. North Carolina, again, Drake May scares the hell out of me. And then Wyoming. Those are the 2 that I think would probably give us some fits. The rest, I think we can handle, not easily, but certainly handle.
Yeah. I think I don't disagree with that, especially with the heart. It's the head and the trying to not be too much of a homer.
Right.
Yeah. I don't want to put 9-3. I want to put, 11-0, but 12-0,
Sure.
with a bowl victory added in there and stuff. But
we start losing viewers if we weren't credible.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I'm trying to play with the head a little bit there and say, all right, well, at least it would make sense if we drop this one or that one kind of thing. Let's jump over to Coastal next. So they're starting off.
I still don't even know what a Chanticleer is.
Some kind of chicken, a chicken with a attitude problem. I think they pissed teal or something. They start off the season all the way on the West Coast versus UCLA. I'll be honest with you. Yeah, I would have thought I would have favored them a lot more if the head coach had stayed and they still had Grayson McCall. They obviously still do have Grayson McCall, but now they've got Tim Beck as the head coach, former offensive coordinator for NC State. I just don't know if traveling all the way across the country with a new scheme a little bit. And I mean, he says he's not going to change too much. It's been working, so he's not going to change this offense around. But I think, if you have growing pains, this is not the kind of game and the kind of trip you want to take to do all the figuring out. If they had this game second game of the season and had an FCS game first or something, I think I'd favor them a lot more heavily. Not heavily necessarily, but I would favor them to stand a great chance to win a little bit better. I just don't know how I feel if they're going to come in and have this as their very first game of the year. I don't know. What are your thoughts on starting off against UCLA like that?
Yeah, I don't think that UCLA is what they were last year. I know Dorian Thompson-Robinson, their quarterback, he actually looked really good in preseason this year in the NFL. DTR's gone. They lost a lot on defense. UCLA did. But I will tell you this: as much as I hated Chip Kelly as an Eagles head coach, I do think he is tailor-made for college football. I do think kids want to play for him. I don't think he's one of those schools where he rebuilds. I think they do reload. At UCLA, honestly, I don't see this being that close. To be quite honest, I think at least 2 touchdowns. UCLA pulls this out. I mean 10:30, right? For an East Coast team, that's late.
Yeah, it's
very tough
late
to do. That's tough to do. I mean 10:30. I'm tucking in. On my side of town. So. I think UCLA is just too much. They've got too much, difference in time zone. Again, I keep saying it, keep bringing it up. It matters. I've done it. I've been to LSU, played in that kind of heat. It matters. I can promise you. Like I said, UCLA, they got too much.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a little too much to overcome. In a good way, they come back and rebound with two what I consider kind of weaker opponents in Jacksonville State and FCS Duquesne. You differ from me in saying that those are probably 2 straight W's for any reason.
Yeah. I think they win pretty easily, and I'll go as even further to say I think they beat Georgia State too going away. I hate to say it, but I think they beat Georgia State as well. I do think they stumble against Georgia Southern for sure.
Okay, so we differ a little bit there, but I do agree with you on the Georgia State aspect. I think it's one of those matchups actually that's had some games go either way in the past. But there's just something about it to me that, if they do drop this one at UCLA to start with, they're probably going to go on a little bit of a tear, especially if, like you say, it's a 2 touchdown, something where it's like realistic that they say, oh, we just got to sharpen up on these few things. They can really gain some traction. I could see them slipping up to Georgia State. That's another one, man. That's kind of a little bit of an underrated rivalry.
I think I was just getting ready to say that rivalry's sort of building now.
Do you remember a couple years ago? I don't know if it's like 2018, 2019. They did this weird dance off on either sideline. Did you remember seeing that?
Yeah, I did remember that. No, it was cool because it's good to watch because it's good for us. It's good for college football. Yeah, it's good for good for the brand, good for the conference. I think you want to. It's got to be nasty, right? Like you want within reason, right? Within reason. You don't want a bunch of kids blowing their tops and losing their minds. You don't want a George Pickens incident against Georgia Tech. Yeah, when he's throwing guys against the against the sidelines. But you do want some healthy rivalry. You want it, you want it organically, right? You want it to be built in to it. And I think with Coastal, too is a team that it's easy to hate them, right? Just like it is Georgia Southern, and not in a bad way, but because of how they got to where they are, and then you're just getting here and you're sticking your chest out, and as you should, right? You should have some pride. But I think too, like I said, I like the rivalry that's brewing between Georgia Southern and Coastal. I just think at Georgia Southern, it's hot. It's still September and it's in the South, right? So, I think that matters.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't have any problem, kind of changing my pick there because any other these next few games could probably flop. Obviously, App State, we really don't need to cover that one. We just talked about it, the team before. So we have them losing there. At Arkansas State, is this kind of a trap game at all to you? Or what do you think it here?
I think it could be a trap game depending on how Georgia Southern and App State go. If they win 2 in a row, I don't think they win 2 in a row away from home back to back. So they either lose to us or they lose to Georgia Southern. That's what I do think. But I think if they, God forbid, if they come out winners against App State, I think they go to Arkansas State and they trip up. But I think it depends on what happens before. I do think they're good enough that they can beat Georgia Southern and they can beat App State back to back, and then again go into Arkansas State and be too high on themselves and get tripped up there. But I think if they come out of App State, they come out with a loss, Arkansas State's in trouble. That's what I do think.
I think I actually agree with that, and I actually have them, as we said, beating Georgia Southern, losing to App, but I also had them losing again, like you said, it's 3 straight road games. We talked about the travel aspect. It's not easy. Arkansas State has had some of the top recruiting classes in the Sun Belt. They've got Butch Jones there as the coach. At some point, you got to think something comes together. So
they're going to pop, eventually.
Yeah, I'm going to call that one a loss. Might be a shock to some Coastal fans. They don't want to hear that, but I'm going with a loss there for that one. And then they come back home, but it ain't going to be an easy game. They got Marshall.
So, they won't have a welcome committee, that's for sure.
Yeah, what do you think about the 2 different shades of green going at it here?
Yeah, I've got Coastal at home. It's gonna be tough. Marshall. And Dean, you're coming off a 3-game road schedule. You're gonna be tired back to back like that. If they don't trip up against Arkansas State, Marshall comes in and they knock them off. But I think if things go the way they wanted to against Arkansas State, they come home and they take care of business against Marshall.
Yeah, I can see that. Again, these couple games that we're right here in the center of the conference.
It's just conference. Those 4. I mean, that's a gauntlet. Yeah, Georgia
is.
Southern, App State, Arkansas State, Marshall, all back to back. I mean, that is tough.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like me and you both probably they could come out 3-1, 2-2, 1-4. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I did have them going on a losing streak there. So I actually have Marshall taking that one just because I think Marshall defensively could be a little bit better than they were last year. Obviously, they beat Notre Dame. They didn't have the greatest finish to the season. Well, actually, I think the finish to the season was actually pretty good. It was kind of that middle part where they fell apart a little bit. So I'm just – again, nothing would surprise me in that middle area, so we'll just say that. At Old Dominion, do you think them challenged, or you think this is similar to the App State thing where they're just not at that level just yet?
Yeah, I don't think they're ready. As a matter of fact, I got them winning the last 3.
I do have them dropping the last game to James Madison. I did have them beating Army and Texas State and Old Dominion. So you don't think there's any trip up there against James Madison for any reason, or even Army?
No, I think they win those last few those last 3 outright. I think, like I said, I mean, at Army's going to be tough, but everybody else, I think, Old Dominion, Texas State, Army, James Madison, and with it being JMU's year to not be bowl eligible, I don't think that they put as much stock. Again, doesn't mean that they don't want to win, but I think depending on how JMU comes into that last game will determine how tough they even decide to play Coastal.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. All right, so then we've got Georgia Southern. Let's bring up their schedule here. They start off, we kind of mentioned this at the beginning. They start off with the Citadel there to start the season off at home. Obviously, Sun Belt teams aren't really traveling to FCS opponents. I don't see that one being much of a contest. It'll be kind of interesting, the fact that, the Citadel is still running a triple option, but Georgia Southern's gone away from it.
Right.
I don't see.
They know how to
contest.
defend it. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. That is a very good point. So, I don't see this one being much of a challenge, especially, I think you watched the game either in person or on TV when App played Citadel last year. Citadel's just not a very good football team right now.
No.
Did you see Citadel's coach rip his entire team in a press conference?
Yeah, that was rough to watch. If I'm a coach or if I'm a father or parent at home listening to that, I'm like, take it easy a bit.
Yeah. I don't like, an aspect of me is like, tell them what they need to do, right? And maybe that's kind of his way of doing it. Well, it was surprising.
And there's 2 types of ways to communicate to your team, right? You can talk to your team through the media. A lot of, NFL coaches do it a lot of times because you're dealing with grown men, right? And they know that from a social media perspective, that kind of thing, it gets back to the team a lot quicker. I mean, you open your phone, you immediately see coach said this about our quarterback or coach said this about our offensive line. That's talking to your team through the media. When you're in college, you don't need that, right? Especially in college like Citadel.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Be respectful. I mean, if you're going to chew them out to their face, right? Don't do it to us, right? We doesn't benefit us. All it does for us is make headlines, which makes news for you and I to talk about, but doesn't do any good for your team.
Yeah, that's a good point. So they go up against UAB after that. Not going to be an easy game. It is at home, however. Easy. So what do you think on that one, win or loss?
Yeah, I think win at home. UAB is a pretty good football team, or at least they were last year. And going into years prior, I think they had a really good quarterback. I think in 2021, I forget his name, running quarterback. He was big, thick kid. Can't remember exactly his name.
I don't remember his name either. He's not in the Sun Belt, so I didn't focus on him. But I remember seeing clips of how big that was.
Yeah, it was UAB and UCF. That was a big time rival. But anyway, no, I've got Georgia Southern over UAB, and then they go to Wisconsin. Yeah. And unfortunately, I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no. You got the Phil Longo offense with some excitement there with the Wisconsin fans now as they grab former Cincinnati head coach. Oh man, I'm blanking on his name right now off the top of my head. I can picture his face, but I can see him, but I can't think about his name. Mm-hmm. But so I think at Wisconsin, again, with the travel aspect, just too much, too powerful of an offense. They got some big boys up there in Wisconsin. So
yeah, they do.
I think that's going to be a bit rough of a time. But I do have them rebounding very well against Ball State, as I think we can take care of the MAC, as we've done pretty well in
Yeah, I was
postseason
gonna
play
say,
in bowl games.
got a pretty good history of taking care of them.
And then we differed on this one, but Coastal Carolina, I had them losing. I think you had that as a win for Coastal, right?
Yeah, well, no, I had
Or
them win.
A win for Georgia Southern. That's right.
Yeah, Georgia Southern.
Yeah.
I had them winning at home. Like I said, it's September 30th. It's still gonna be warm, and it's still in the South. And like I said, I mean they'll wanna make a statement against Coastal.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. That's, again, we talked about that little bit of a rivalry. So James Madison, they upset James Madison as JMU was ranked last year down there in Statesboro. This time they go on the road to Harrisonburg, Virginia. I mean, this one was really a toss-up for me, and I went with a loss. But I could very well be persuaded to go the other direction. So what do you got for this one?
Yeah, I got a loss too. I got them losing to James Madison. I got James Madison wanting some get back. And I think they get it. Some home cooking for James Madison up north. And listen, James Madison, they show up. Their fans show up. That stadium's going to be rocking. It's Georgia Southern. Who's not going to show up for Georgia Southern? So I do think, I got JMU winning that one.
Okay, we're pretty close and similar so far. Let's see if we got that. I'm going to go to next three because whenever there's a streak, I'm going to try and cover multiple games because I feel like if they go on it'll be a hot streak there. I've got them winning over ULM, Georgia State, and at Texas State.
Yep.
What are we thinking there?
100%. Yep. 100% agree. I think they take care of those, and then they go to Marshall, and I don't think they pull that one out.
Perfect. We do agree on that. Do we even need to compare some of these notes before we started? We're on the same page here. Now we got our favorite team who was going to love to hate us after watching this, Old Dominion. Do they win one here, or is this a Georgia Southern victory?
So I've got Georgia Southern losing to Marshall, which means Old Dominion. I'm sorry, I can't pick you. I can't pick Old Dominion at home against Georgia Southern after a loss.
Yeah.
I played against Georgia Southern too many times. They've got some pride, and they're going to want to make sure that people know that, hey, we slipped up, but we are still who we are. And I don't think Old Dominion, I just don't. On the road against Georgia Southern, if they were home, it might be a little bit different. Again, team on to come up. I think they've got a lot of good pieces, and I think they're doing really well. I just don't know that at home against Georgia Southern after a loss, if it goes the way I'm predicting or we predict, I don't think Old Dominion can pull it off.
Yeah, we agree there yet again. And, of course, I think we said we agree on the last one, which is App State takes the victory over them in the season finale. You can't lose the game where Almani gets his jersey retired, right?
No,
I mean,
and they got us last year. We got to get them back. We got to.
Yeah. Kept us from going bowling, man. We need some revenge for that one. All right, Georgia State. They start, which when this podcast goes live will be either the day of the game or within minutes of kickoff against Rhode Island. I don't see much of a test there. Let me see if I could bring these guys up as we talk about this one. What are your thoughts on that first game against an FCS team there?
Yeah, I think they take care of Rhode Island. Rhode Island, it's funny. We actually had a guy on our team that went to Mays High School in Atlanta and then went to Rhode Island and transferred to App State, James Hill. He played receiver. But yeah, anyway, that's neither here nor there. Not ready yet. I don't think Rhode Island is ready.
Yeah, I agree. As the screen keeps jumping around on us, but now we've got it where we want it. I think also Thursday night, you're not playing at home as a Rhode Island team. I mean, they have like a 7th-year quarterback, which is kind of crazy because of COVID.
Weird, yeah.
They're kind of a fringe top 25 FCS team from what I've seen. I just don't think it's going to be enough, not on a Thursday night. So I've got them winning that one. With interesting matchup in week 2 here with UConn. What do you think about this UConn matchup?
So I like UConn. I like UConn a lot. I think last year they did pretty well or decent. I want so badly for Georgia State to win this. I just don't think they will. I think the Huskies come in and I think they take it.
Yep, actually have the exact same outcome. And like you said, UConn didn't have the best start to the season last year. Right down the road here in Raleigh, they got hammered by NC State. But they did really finish strong.
They
and then
turned it
into that
around.
bowl
Yeah, I think
game.
they had, what was it, 4 or 5 wins in a row to end the
Yep.
season?
Yeah, so
So-
it got them to the bowl game. They ended up playing Marshall in that one, in Conway of all places. So again,
Right.
that might be why Marshall could perform well down there in Conway this year. But speaking of green teams, they go to Charlotte after that. Charlotte's got a new head coach. Any chance
Yeah.
they lose down there in Charlotte? Because unfortunately, they did lose last year at home against these guys.
Yeah, I think they take care of business in Charlotte. Charlotte is another team that's coming up. I was actually a few years back at the Charlotte Maryland game. Buddy of mine was coaching for Maryland at the time. Wasn't even close. I think Charlotte is, they're good for what they are. Again, another team. It's kind of, it's funny as it relates to Coastal and Charlotte. I think I talked last week about how, Coastal is kind of a cheat code for North Carolina, being on the beach and kids wanting to come there. I kind of feel the same way for Charlotte, right? I feel like with all those schools that are around, in Charlotte, you have Charlotte Catholic, Butler, bunch of schools that are in Charlotte. The kids aren't going to go all major big D1.
Right.
Charlotte is also kind of a cheat code. I think they should be recruiting a lot better than they are, and I think they will. But I do think my hope is that Georgia State goes into Charlotte and takes that one.
Yeah, that's my hope too. I was kind of surprised they dropped that one last year. I mean, Georgia State just had a tough start to the year, unfortunately for them. It didn't pan out the way that they had thought going in. And then they go on the road to Coastal. I think we both had this as the loss, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of? We both talked about Troy falling off a little bit, but do you think they have enough to beat Troy this season?
Not this season. I think Troy falls off a little bit, but I don't think that much. I don't. Again, as much as I love Georgia State and for obvious reasons, I don't think. As a matter of fact, I think they lose to Coastal, Troy, Marshall, and Louisiana. Unfortunately, I can't see them really winning. And then there's Georgia Southern. God,
Yeah.
I mean, they could easily go 0-5 in that run. So that's tough.
I'm going to go ahead and jump in there with you too, because I have them going 1-4 through that slate. I got this weird victory over Marshall, and it's one of those ones like maybe it's just the matchup fits them well. Darren Granger's a scrambling quarterback. Maybe he pulls something and just makes magic happen, and they pull. It's like you said, like 0-5 is realistic because it's a gauntlet, but at the same time, like with the
they got to pull out
flows of the season, they got to win one of them, right? So, I went with a victory over Marshall again. It was kind of a coin flip on a few of them there. Covered all the way up to Georgia Southern, so they got another gauntlet, except for the very last game of the season. I'd say you got James Madison, App State, at LSU. I don't think you're going to be taking them over LSU. And they do end at Old Dominion, so maybe that's their W. What do you think there on those last 4 games in a row that they've got there?
So here's the if you're a Georgia State fan, here's the sad and just awful news. Starting at Coastal, you could legitimately see them losing every game until they got to Old Dominion. And I hate that for them. I absolutely despise that for them, just because Coach Sean Elliott, I love him to death. They're not on Coastal's level. They're not on Troy's level. Like you said, they may beat Marshall. Louisiana, I'm kind of iffy on it. Georgia Southern, no. James Madison, I don't think so. Maybe because they're at home, but I doubt it. Absolutely not against App State. Absolutely not against LSU. And then Old Dominion, like I said, we've talked about our buddies a bit. At some point they've got to get some wins, right?
Yeah.
So maybe this is one of them. So I mean, they could have a terrible end to the season. Yeah.
Well, they don't schedule-wise. They don't have an easy one. That's for darn sure. Especially you throw LSU into anybody's schedule at the very end. That's not going to be easy.
Right.
Not going to be easy at all. I've got them beating James Madison and Old Dominion again. It's one of those things where you're just like, I think they have just. My overall prediction for them is 5-7, 3-5 within the conference, because I think that's kind of what kind of team they are. So I had to fit some wins in there somewhere. Those are my 2 wins. Was against the 2 Virginia teams. So Virginia.
So you got Rhode Island, UConn, Charlotte, then you've got Marshall, and you've got
JMU,
James
and
Madison
Old Dominion.
and Old Dominion. So that's
Yep.
6 wins.
Is it 6 wins?
Is that 6? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
James Madison and Old Dominion. Yeah, that's 6. So you've got them winning 6 games. I
Okay.
don't. I've got them winning 4. I got them winning. I got them win against Rhode Island. I don't think they beat UConn. I think they beat Charlotte. I think they beat Old Dominion. And then somewhere in that, from Coastal to App State, somewhere in that gauntlet, they win 1. I just hope it's not against us. Somewhere they win 1.
Yeah.
And those are the 4 I got them winning. I can't.
Gotcha.
I mean, I can't see it any other way. That's going to be tough.
It is. It is going to be tough, but it's like you said. Hopefully for Sean Elliott there, it does improve, and they can prove us wrong, right? They can watch this podcast or listen to this podcast and be like, these guys have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah, and I hope they're right. I hope that's the case.
Right.
But the problem is they're recruiting against Georgia Southern, Georgia Tech, Georgia. I mean, it's just the South is hard. I mean, it's a tough place to recruit. So
It is. It is. Absolutely is. Speaking of the opposite of the South, we'll go to JMU. Well, I don't know. What do you think? Is Virginia part of the South? I feel like that's kind of where there's this transitioning happened to the North, right?
Yeah, well, and I've heard some people say North Carolina's not the South, and those people can go to hell.
I like it. I like it.
Why don't you have a plate of my barbecue and tell me if I'm Southern?
There you go.
Yeah. So, but no, I it's Virginia. I don't know. You're a minute from DC, so no.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess Mason-Dixon line. I think it runs through Virginia, or at least halfway through Virginia, at least, doesn't it?
Something like that. Like Maryland is that weird state. Virginia might be completely below it, but it's like you said, it's so close to everything. It's like I feel like the bottom half of Virginia is also a little different from the top half. So
right,
it's one of those states. It's just a
like
weird
that
transition state.
That Roanoke area is definitely south.
Yeah. So
part of it.
All right, getting in there though, I don't see any problem with Bucknell. What about you?
No, and anytime there's a game where tickets are $9, I think it's safe to say to say we're fine. JMU
fans must not be really pumped about the buy now.
No, must not be super excited about Bucknell. Listen, so Virginia, here's the thing. Somebody's got to get upset this year. It's got to happen.
Yeah.
And JMU did it a few years back to Carolina. I think they do it again to Virginia. I've got JMU winning against Virginia.
Okay. So we differ there, but I don't disagree greatly that they don't stand a strong chance to win that game.
Absolutely, they do. I mean, Virginia last year had a lot of talent leave. I think defensively they're going to be tough, but I also think JMU has a really good offense, really good coaching, and I think they got some great athletes. And here's the thing. If I'm picking schools in Virginia to go to, it's either Virginia Tech or it's JMU. I don't know that Virginia shows up on my radar very much.
Yeah. I don't
if I'm an
disagree
athlete, if I'm an athlete looking at it in Virginia, I'd go to JMU before I went to Virginia.
Yeah. I heard the campus is pretty, but I've never been, so I won't really speak too much on that. But that's about all I know about Virginia is they have a beautiful campus. Okay, that's good. I mean, it is good to have that. But I'm going to differ there a little bit. But again, that one I really do agree that they should be able to compete.
Somebody's got to get upset this year.
We need more Power 5 victories. You saw what it did for the conference last year. Everybody was paying attention to us all of a sudden. So after a heck of a weekend. Now, to me, whether they win or lose, you're going on the road to Virginia, on the road to Troy, on the road to Utah State. To me, that's another gauntlet type thing. Oh, yeah, then they come home and face the West favorite.
South Alabama,
Yeah. So, to me, that's a tough gauntlet. I've got them losing every single one of those games. Again, Virginia, hopefully I'm wrong on. I do. And I think early season Troy's still going to have a lot of their shape and still be okay enough to hope, take that victory, not hopefully, but, just for being correct, hopefully,
Right.
for me. But Utah State, again, as we talked about, huge travel. Their head coach used to coach at Arkansas State, so he's got some familiarity with how some of these Sunbelt schools run things. Obviously, JMU's a newer Sunbelt school, so he never saw them, but he's going to be prepared and ready for his team, and they're playing all the way out west. I think it's too much of a gauntlet, and then they come home to play South Alabama. Again, this is where I think that, hey, welcome to the Sunbelt, welcome to the FBS, JMU. Flash. And this is similar, and you'll remember this. Georgia Southern came in and had a great first season in the FBS and the Sunbelt. And then they had some struggles after that because they brought in a lot of talented transfers, and they were successful, and they were gone immediately. Does that same type of thing happen to JMU? I'm predicting yes. But they may be better positioned to deal with it because now all these transfer portal rules are different. So I got them winning and rebounding against Georgia Southern. We could pick it up there after you either totally disagree with my takes on those other games or what your thoughts are on those, 4-game tough sledding there.
No, I don't disagree. I got them riding high after Virginia. I do think they lose to Troy, come back down to earth a bit. They definitely lose to Utah State. South Alabama, I mean, that's tough. South Alabama does go to JMU, so there's that.
That's true. That's true.
That's the one thing they've got playing in their favor, but, I mean, they're the West favorite. I don't see them pulling that off. I don't see them winning against Georgia Southern. I don't see them winning against Marshall. And then our friends, Old Dominion, I think that's where they pick it back up.
Yeah.
God, I hate doing that. I hate doing that to Old Dominion.
Yeah. The only one I switched up was the Georgia Southern one. I had them beating them, but then dropping Marshall just like you and beating Old Dominion to recover there. So now they've got Georgia State. I think we talked about that one a little bit ago. I have it as a loss. I can't remember what you'd said right off the top of my head.
Definitely. Yeah, I had it as a loss as well.
Just a loss for there. All right, so UConn, we've already talked about them. They've already shown up on the schedule for the Sun Belt overall. What do you think about them and their chances versus the Huskies for the Dukes there in JMU?
I think it'll be tough. I think that's, they've got to get on a win streak at some point. So I think, ODU, Georgia State, UConn, I think if they get on that 3-game win streak, they'll be feeling pretty good about themselves. And then they come, and then App State comes to town and we take that.
They take that L there. Yeah, I have them losing to App as well. I have them beating Coastal Carolina. They matched up well last year. Obviously, Coastal did not have Grayson McCall, but they unfortunately for them, they know they don't really have anything to play for, no matter what happens this season. So that's their last game for these seniors. So I feel like they go out on a high note and get the W there against Coastal. You have any thoughts or feelings on that last game there? Is it different from mine?
I think because Coastal will be, if my prediction is correct, I think Coastal will be bowl eligible. So I think they come in to that game at home hungry. I don't think that they let JMU kick them out of bowl contention. So I think there's a lot on the line for Coastal, whereas there won't be as much for JMU.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that'll wrap it up for the Dukes. Let's go over to the Marshall Thundering Herd and their schedule for this year. They kick it off against Albany this weekend. Yet again, another FCS matchup. Any problem from I believe they're the Great Danes of Albany University.
Yeah, no, I don't see them losing to Albany or East Carolina.
Okay.
I think they do pretty well against both of them. And then obviously getting to Virginia Tech, and they that's when they give it up. Okay,
so I'm flipping my ECU and Virginia Tech games, as you said.
Okay,
we've got to have some P5 victories. I don't think Virginia
absolutely.
Tech's all that strong. I think the defense for Marshall is going to be better. Virginia Tech dropped that game to ODU last year. ODU played a good game in that one. I think Marshall could be an even stronger team overall from the Sun Belt, and Marshall has the pedigree with beating Notre Dame last year. I'm going to call that one an upset. But, again, I'm going to differ from you and say that ECU and Marshall have a big history from their days back when they were in the same conference. And I think East Carolina at home might just be a little bit too much. I'd love to be wrong again.
Sure.
But, if they soften them up for App, I won't be upset with that either. So, App State plays East Carolina that following weekend. But then I have them beating our favorite team over here in Old Dominion after that first 3 games of the season. So if you want to run through the next few and see what your thoughts are from ODU down to, I don't know, let's go to JMU, the in-state rivalry there.
Yeah. I've got them losing to NC State. I got them. I think it's going to be a close game with Georgia State, but I do think they pull it off. And then I think James Madison, I think that's one of those when we picked James Madison, I think we looked at their schedule previously where James Madison had that gauntlet where we think they could go, I think it was 0-6 or 0-5, or, they win one out of there. If they do win one, I think it's against Marshall. At home or at home. I think that's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a tough game. I think I think I'm picking Marshall.
I got Marshall beating James Madison, losing to NC State as well. I think we flipped on the Georgia State prediction. I have them losing to Georgia State. Again, it was one of those find those weird games, right? Like was it ODU crushed Coastal Carolina last year? No one saw that coming.
Definitely did not. Well, I don't see that happening again.
Yeah, that's true. But you're going to get some weird games like that, and that's kind of one of those ones that's like, Marshall shouldn't lose to this team, but they did. I threw in a couple of those, like thinking about some of those weird aspects. It might just be a matchup thing more than anything else. So we got down to, we're JMU. So we talked about Coastal yet? Coastal and Marshall?
We have not.
Right? We did when we talked about Coastal's schedule, I guess. We had Marshall both winning, correct? Yeah.
Against Coastal,
all right, so we covered that. App State, we did touch on this. We have them both losing at App, right?
Yes. Yeah, we both have them App winning at home.
Okay. Georgia Southern, we both had Marshall taking them.
At home.
Taking Marshall over them. Yep, at home. South Alabama, West Division. Hopeful champ.
I think they lose.
Yep, agreed there. Arkansas State finishing this victory or season with a victory. Agree there?
Yep, agreed.
All right, now we're really going to get into it with these ODU fans who will never watch another episode after this.
They are going to hate us by the time this is over with. Listen, you got to call a spade a spade. I mean, you and I have been around football long enough to know, look at the schedule. I mean, come on. You start out with Virginia Tech, and then you play Louisiana. You play Wake Forest. Yeah. I mean, obviously 3 L's right away. And then Texas A&M, I think they win there.
Well, not Texas
A&M. Commerce.
Commerce, yeah. Because if they started with that gauntlet, they just don't play the rest of the season. That's right. That's a Power 5 schedule if they would have Texas A&M for real on there.
Exactly.
But I agree with you. I got 3 straight losses to start the season and then W there. So Marshall, Southern Miss, App State, James Madison, Coastal Carolina, at Liberty, at Georgia Southern. I mean, that might not include the final game.
Yeah, they might not win a game. They might. I mean,
I feel bad for that. Who gave them the schedule?
Yeah, and here's the thing: like, it's not unrealistic that they don't win any of those games after Texas A&M Commerce. It's a good chance they win none of those games. I mean, they maybe just the way the laws go. I mean, at some point you got to win one. Again, hoping it's not App. I think maybe James Madison or maybe Georgia State.
You know what I did? I did the conference a favor. Well, I didn't do ODU a favor, but I did the conference a favor and said, hey, we're going to send one of our teams that's not so great out to Liberty, and we're going to beat the hell out of them. So I've got them beating Liberty.
Okay.
Give them a little pride there in state, playing the Liberty Flames. But I agree with you. I literally have them losing every other game, and I hate to do that.
So tough.
Do we agree that
they're
2-10 overall? 2-10 overall?
So.
Is that
Texas A&M Commerce, and then like you said, maybe Liberty or I said either maybe Liberty or Georgia State. Maybe so James Madison instead.
Maybe
I don't know.
1, 2 at the most conference wins. I mean, that's tough, but like we said, that's probably one of the toughest schedules in the conference, especially when you include 2 Power 5 victories in the first 3 weeks of the season.
I mean, honestly, Louisiana could be considered. I mean, Louisiana is really damn good. I mean, for the West, for us, I mean, between them and South Alabama, I don't know who's going to pull that out.
Yeah.
But Virginia Tech, Louisiana, I'm sorry, guys. I know
Very
you guys
tough.
are gonna. They'll probably never watch another one of the syndicates again. But
Yeah, Monarch fans,
Call it-
we apologize. It's not. It's if you had a different breakdown of this thing, maybe it's a little different. But they don't give you any breaks in this. You get one
no,
break.
there is
You get
well,
Texas
and
A&M
like
Commerce. That's it.
right. Well, and two, we said before we even looked at schedules how tough the East Gauntlet was. The eastern side of our conference. I mean, it's tough no matter how you slice it.
Yep.
But you add in Virginia Tech, I mean, what were they thinking? Why would they even I mean, the money, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. But they didn't in 2007. They said the same thing about App. So I just don't see that being.
That's true. Well, we've finished the East. We've got some kind of rough estimation of where these guys will finish, with pretty much ODU at the bottom and App at the top. A lot of people tuning in probably could have expected us to pick App towards the top, but I don't think that's unrealistic. Again, a lot of close games last year, so I think it's very possible that they come out on top. Sorry, I still got the little recovery from the chest stuff going on. We had a big announcement the other day, TJ. I don't know if you saw it, but College Football Dogs will launch an app over the summer of 2024. So we want to play you a little video to show you what some of the features will be in that, and we'll come right back with the West breakdown.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm excited for that. I can't wait to test it out. And I think Hunter had said some kind of beta version, maybe by like June, to kind of roll through and see how that's looking. But let's get into this West side and won't delay any further. Arkansas State Red Wolves started off hot against the Oklahoma Sooners. I'll bring up the schedule, the rest of the schedule, as you begin to tell us why they're going to take down the Sooners in Oklahoma, TJ. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you that would be the case, but and it would be nice for the conference, right? It'd be great for us, but
yeah,
it's a no for me.
Number 20 to start it off with. That's a little rough schedule wise, but
yeah,
I mean, anything can happen. They've had some good recruiting classes, but
right.
You've really got to sell me on that.
If you told me, I was going to say, if you told me it was South Alabama, or if you told me it was Louisiana, I'd say certainly a good chance. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that they're ready yet. Not for Oklahoma.
Yeah, I don't see it just yet either, unfortunately. But here's the rest of the schedule. They got their favorite kind of. It's not really crosstown. I don't know if you're familiar with how close Jonesboro is to Memphis. I think it's like an hour or like
it's pretty close. Yeah.
So, I mean, heck of a rivalry game there. They haven't really won that game much lately. I'm going to take them to win that one this year. I think, again, with the Butch Jones in their recruiting classes continuing to be very good, it's got to pay off at some point. They got to get this victory over crosstown rival. Again, it's not real true crosstown rival, but it's really cross state technically. But I feel like they got to get this on their side at some point. So I'm picking them to beat Memphis, and I'll throw Stony Brook in there again, another FCS opponent. I think the Sun Belt, most of the Sun Belt teams, almost all of them, should not struggle with very, very many FCS opponents. So I'm going to say they go on a 2-game win streak there after a tough loss against Oklahoma.
Yeah, and then they drop it to Southern Miss, and then they pick it back up against Massachusetts. UMass. I did like UMass for a while. I don't think they have enough, and they lose to Troy and Coastal, and I think they may pick it back up against UL Monroe.
Yeah, so I'm almost exactly the same. Again, this is one of those weird things where I think if you go back and look the history between Arkansas State and Coastal, for whatever reason, Coastal seems to struggle against the Red Wolves. I don't know why that makes sense.
It's weird. I know. It's weird. It's weird.
It is. It's a matchup thing. So I actually flipped this because I think at some point, again, ULM's got to come out of the basement here at some point. So I actually have them beating Coastal Carolina in a bit of a surprise, but then dropping to ULM because, again, what you alluded to earlier. Maybe you get on a high from beating, a good team like that. It kind of a trap game or a game that, you didn't get up for as much as you should have type of thing. Right. And I also think ULM should improve at least a little bit this year. So I'm going to take them to lose that one. I think we probably both have them losing to the Cajuns after that. Is that what you're thinking?
And South Alabama,
And South Alabama, I do too. Texas State, that's an interesting one. That one certainly could go either way. What do you think there?
Yeah, I think they win against Texas State. I don't think they win. They lose 3 in a row. I think they come out against Texas State at home, feeling, like they need some recouping, some get back. And I think they pull that one out. And then I think they go to Marshall, and I think they lose that one.
Yep. All right. That was easy. We got that one. I mean, we almost had every single game picked the same. That would give them pretty much a 5-7 record overall. Not bad for a bowl game. But it is an improvement. It is an improvement over last season.
Well, and where we predicted them, right? Middle of the pack, right? They're not going to be at the top of the conference. I mean, and two, like I said, there's so many good teams out in the East, and then you've got South Alabama, Southern Miss, Louisiana. I mean, those 3 in the West, I think, and Troy, obviously. So, I'm sorry, Troy, Louisiana Raging Cajuns, and South Alabama I have as the top 3 in the West. So, I mean, they're finishing about where we thought they would.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those top teams are going to take care of business pretty well for the most part. And speaking of the Cajuns, we will jump to them next as they are next on the alphabetical order. I've got this team very similar to what we looked at with App, honestly, where they have, a heck of a turnaround within one season's time. They had a new head coach last year in Desimero. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's got that like EAUX ending,
Oh, okay.
So it throws me for a loop every time I read that because that's how they spell go down there. Go. You know that you've got the LSU stuff.
Oh yeah.
He's got that. Yeah, that weird spelling down there. I don't think they struggle with Northwestern State. I don't think they struggle with an early conference matchup against Old Dominion. I do have a question mark when they have to travel to UAB, though. What do you think about the Blazers and the Cajuns? And that isn't that a great matchup too? The Blazers and the Cajuns. It's just all
great game.
Fire.
Great games. I like a little Cajun with my heat too. UAB. I just think Louisiana is better. I think they've got a little bit more talent. Especially at positions that matter, quarterback spot, offensive line, those 2 offensive tackles that Louisiana has, they're great. I mean, huge guys. And I think defensively they're fast. They're fast everywhere. The whole state of Louisiana is fast. So there's that. So
it's true.
I think they go to UAB. I think they take that one. But going back up to ODU, I hate this for them. Look at those ticket prices. $8, huh?
Oh, man.
Rough. That's brutal. No one's excited about going to see ODU. It's rough, man. I mean, I guess you pick your games where you don't make any money. I guess that's one of them.
Yeah, I guess that's true. All right, so
get
Buffalo,
your cold beer for less than that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can. Yeah. Buffalo Bulls, the Buffalo Bulls. I've got that one as a victory coming out of the MAC. I know it's not an easy matchup. It's always going to be.
No, I was scared to say it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, because MAC teams don't get a lot of respect, but they're pretty consistent for the most part. And Buffalo could present a little problem, but I do have the Cajuns ultimately taking a victory in that one. Then they go on the road, face a heck of a team in Minnesota. I don't think they win that one. What do you think there?
No. I don't think they win Minnesota, but I do think they bounce back against Texas State, Georgia Southern. I think they go on a 2-game winning streak there. And then there's South Alabama. And I think that, folks, you better tune in for it. You better have your TV plugged in, better be ready to go. Louisiana, South Alabama. I mean, those are going to be clash of the Titans. I think it's going to be, knocking snot, as they say, for 4 quarters. I think we are in for a treat, and I'll certainly be tuned in for that game.
Yeah, I think that one should be really good too. I do have them losing that one just because, like I said, South Alabama's my favorite, just like it's pretty much everybody else's. So we're pretty much on par there. I have them beating Arkansas State. I think we just covered that one. in the first team of the West bracket, I should say. Southern Miss. Southern Miss is kind of one of my sleeper teams. I don't know if they end up at the top of the West Division, but sneaky talent. If they got the quarterback, they could really do some damage this year. I'm going to say that Southern Miss gets the upset. This is also a little bit of a heated rivalry here.
I was just going to say there's some bad blood, right?
Yeah. They don't particularly care for each other very much, and obviously I saw that most recently this spring, early summer when they were playing in baseball against each other. Little heat in the Twitter realm, or the X realm, or whatever the hell we're calling that now.
Man, listen, I'm so old. I don't know what we're doing with anything anymore. It's not Facebook or Instagram. Count me out, bro. I don't.
Yeah. It's too much, but I think this is. I mean, it's like you said, Louisiana's got some really good matchups that, whether they win or lose, you're going to want to watch this team. Ultimately, I do have them losing to Southern Miss, but then winning those last two games over both Troy and ULM. I mean, that for me would put them about an 8-4 record, so a pretty good improvement. What do you think for the ending of their season there in that one?
So I've got them. It was so tough for me to pick the South Alabama game, but I do have South Alabama coming out winning. I think they win. They beat Arkansas State, they beat Southern Miss. I think they lose to Troy, and then they beat ULM. Okay. So we both have two losses in that run, but different teams.
Yeah, which I think that's a safe bet. We've covered all our bases. We'll just spread it out. So we're always looking like the podcast overall looks like it's pretty smart. I like your thinking.
But I mean, we look like we know what we're doing.
Yeah. To some extent, we've got some pride on the line here that we want to make sure we're getting these as correct as possible. So we'll jump over to the Warhawks as the season starts off there against Army. You've talked about some Army members in your family. You rooting for them? You think they're going to pull it off as well?
Yeah, I think Army wins this one. I hope Army wins this one. And then ULM, they come home to Lamar. Well, they stay home for Lamar. They win there, and then it's L until you get to Texas State for me.
Yep. You know what? I will say I differ with the Army one. I just think ULM could win that one. Again, not necessarily going to be favored or should, but I think they could. So I put that one down as a W. Again, mainly because they're playing at home, and I think Army's coming from West Point, and that's a tough place to play, to go out in kind of the middle of nowhere, Louisiana, in the heat early in the season. Could catch Army off guard. But I do agree with you the rest of the way. Win over Lamar, 3 straight losses before rebounding with Texas State. So Georgia Southern, I think we covered this already. We had them losing to Georgia Southern, right?
Yeah, got them losing to Georgia Southern. Got them winning against – I got them losing to Arkansas State. Sorry.
Okay. That's why we differ there. But, again, that's kind of a toss-up. Those are those two teams that are kind of close to each other a lot. So.
Yep. And then I got them losing to Southern Miss, losing to Troy, obviously Ole Miss and Louisiana. So, I mean, we're looking at 4 wins, maybe?
Yeah, so I've got Army and Troy being different with you.
Okay,
It's one of those trap game things for Troy. Maybe not a trap game, but it's just one of those ones that Troy shouldn't drop. Maybe they do.
Maybe they do, yeah.
For whatever reason, ULM plays pretty well at home. I think it's not close to any major airports. It's kind of a bus ride to get in there.
It's a drive, yes. It's a ways to go to get in there.
Yeah, and again, I just think Troy falls off a little bit this year. The Troy boys, who also probably will check out some of the show, maybe they won't like that prediction at all. But hey, that's what it is. I just think that's what's going to happen. So that takes us into South Alabama. As I find them, the Jags here, starting off with one hell of a matchup against a ranked Tulane team. Any thoughts on, again, it's not Power 5, but it is a ranked opponent. What do you think about the Sun Belt taking down an early season ranked team?
I think they do. I think Tulane ended the season last year on a high note. I think they're going to come in high. I think they're going to start overlooking based on the rest of their schedule. And I think they take a loss that first game to South Alabama. I think they do. It's going to be a hell of a matchup, though. I mean, again, I'll be tuned in, certainly watching it. Worth the price of admission, I guess, $2 tickets.
Oh gosh, I didn't see that. Yep, you're right.
Some
What was
of these
that game?
tickets,
$2.
I don't know. And
What is happening?
And James Madison tickets are $107. Are you kidding me? What are we doing?
There's got to be something wrong here.
Yeah, this can't be right. This can't be right. Yeah,
That should flip. Well, I don't know. $2 tickets to James Madison and South Alabama would hell of a deal. But
I would say so.
Yeah, I'm just shocked by it. Maybe there's just like one ticket left, and somebody put it.
They got to get it off the. Yeah, they got to get it off the books because
Yeah.
the season's right around the corner. So
yeah, that's true.
But
Well,
yeah, I think. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I totally agree with you. If South Alabama's going to be this favorite that everyone thinks they are, they're going to have to come out and prove it early.
It's got to start somewhere, and it's got to start with. And what better place for it to start than Tulane? I mean, again, like I said, I think Tulane, the way they ended the season last year, on a high note, I think they come in. I think they come in feeling themselves a little bit, and I think South Alabama says, "Hey, hold your horses a little bit, man. You coming into a place, where we can win some football games too." And I know it's at Tulane, and I know it's tough place to play and all of that, but it's got to start somewhere.
Yeah, well, lucky for them, South Alabama's not coming from too far. Mobile and New Orleans, really not that far apart.
Yeah.
That's a bus ride. That's an easy bus ride, really. South Alabama's coming off a 10-3 season, so they lost 2 games before they got trounced pretty good by Western Kentucky in their bowl game. So you do have to put that into effect. But
also, Western Kentucky's that's not a bad football team. I mean,
no, they run that air.
Well, in the state of Kentucky plays football really well. So, what are we doing? I mean, it's not like we're talking about, they lost to a school that nobody knows about or nobody likes. I mean, they're a good school. So,
yeah, that air raid offense is just a bad matchup. We saw what it did to App State in their bowl game. This is a very similar result for South Alabama. Whatever reason, I don't want Western Kentucky back in the Sun Belt because of that.
I do not. They can have them.
Yeah. But, again, a 3-loss team overall. 2 of those games were by a combined 5 points. They lost to UCLA by 1 point, could have won that one very easily, and they lost to Troy by 4, a game that really could have gone either way. It was a defensive battle. South Alabama's got the defense on their side. I think they're going to really round into form offensively. I don't think there's going to be a struggle with Southeastern Louisiana the following week. I do have an L against Oklahoma State. I hope I'm wrong, but that's a strong Power 5 team that always starts the season pretty well. It's in the middle towards the end where the Cowboys kind of fall off, but I see that being the loss there. What do you think on that one? Same thing? Yeah,
I think they lose. I think they lose at Oklahoma State for sure, and then they bounce back against Central Michigan. I think they beat James Madison, ULM. I think Southern Miss plays them tough, but I think ultimately they come out winning. And then when it comes to Louisiana, we talked about it earlier. That's going to be one of the ones you want to,
watch for sure.
I'm definitely going to be watching that game for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I'll make it even quicker than that. I got them winning out the rest of the way after Oklahoma State loss.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think they beat Troy, Arkansas State, Marshall. So that's only 2 losses?
I got 1. I got the Oklahoma State loss only.
Okay, 1 loss, so
11-1, 8-0. Could they be the New Year's 6 representative? I mean, if they go 12-0, to me, there's no question they will be, because you're going to have a victory over a ranked team, a Power 5 team, some good conference opponents. So that's why I said, go ahead.
We've got to be careful with that rank thing too with Tulane. We got to hope that because again, here's what happens: if South Alabama beats them, then now they're no longer ranked.
They are no longer ranked. Yeah, they're going to have to come back up and win games.
They'll have to win some quality games, which I think they can. I think they, I certainly think they have the capability of doing, but also it could go the other way. So when it comes to those New Year's 6 bowl games, Cotton Bowl, they always try to find a way to not put us in. So that could be one of those things where they say, they started the season ranked, but they didn't, so quality of competition might matter. And it could be one of those things where they beat Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State bounces back and they have a great season and they end up ranked. So we'll see. Just have to see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is just a really interesting aspect. I did write an article on College Football Dogs about how the Sun Belt will have the New York Six representative this season. I really strongly believe that. Even if it's not South Alabama, if somebody else, flips the script here and Louisiana goes on a tear, or Southern Miss, okay, let's go ahead. We've covered this. We think South Alabama is going to follow what a lot of people think and win the West Division. So now we've got Southern Miss, and I want to cover this team really closely because I think they are kind of this dark horse.
Yep.
I don't want to say favorite. They're not a favorite by any means. But if they win a couple of their games early to start the season, they're going to become a favorite very quickly because that means they'll have beaten Florida State, who even if they lose to LSU in week 1 will still be a ranked team.
Yep.
Right? And then we'll see what happens with Tulane against South Alabama in that first week, but possible a ranked Tulane team comes in, who they beat last year at Tulane, and this year they host at home. Alcorn State's probably not going to present them very many issues. So if somehow, some way, these Golden Eagles start the season 3-0
or 3-0,
watch the hell out. I don't think it's going to happen. Okay, I don't have that predicted. I have them losing to Florida State, but I do think they can beat Tulane again. I do think it could happen. Not going to be easy, but again, this time they're at home. That's a heated rivalry as well. So,
if they beat Florida State and Tulane, that won't help South Alabama's chances of being a New Year's Six bowl member based on Tulane's ranking just falling way down after that.
That's true. That's true.
However, it could very well be done. I don't have them beating Florida State. I don't have them beating Tulane. I think they can. I think they did, like I said, last year, but I think there's some get back. I think there's some pride that's going to take place for Tulane. I do think they beat Arkansas State, Texas State, our friends at ODU. I think they lose to South Alabama. I think you call that as one of those trip-up games, right, for South Alabama, or no? No, you got them 11-1. So no.
Yeah. So no. Yeah.
I think App State beats them. UL Monroe, I think they win there. Not to call out the whole schedule and take anything from you.
No,
but
you're good. Go ahead.
Going down to that UL Monroe, I think 4 losses down to UL Monroe. App State, South Alabama, Tulane, and Florida State, they lose.
We don't differ too much, honestly. I did have App State losing to them. So you did tell me that earlier, yep. So we'll flip that. But I do have them losing Mississippi State.
Okay.
So there's that. But that puts me with them in a record of 9-3, 7-1 in the conference. So that's a heck of a schedule, and most years would probably put them in the championship. But as I said with South Alabama, I got them going 8-0 in conference. So you're talking about one heck of a great team if Southern Miss can pull that off, not even making their championship game, but possibly being considered for a heck of a bowl game with a 9-3 overall record. Even if they have an 8-4 record, that's an improvement over last year, and probably not necessarily where Southern Miss fans want to be, but it's not a bad place to be because when they came into the Sun Belt, they knew they were rebuilding. I think they kind of did a little bit better than they even expected to last year, even though they didn't have the great record.
A little better than I expected them to, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think part of that was a lot of us didn't really know or understand how many guys didn't play the year before due to injuries or suspensions or trying to get them just fully healthy. So they actually returned a lot more than a lot of us in the Sun Belt knew of. So they kind of came out of nowhere, not necessarily to be, at the top, but this year I think they could be at the top, and it wouldn't shock me at all. Again, I wouldn't be totally blown away if they somehow win these first 3 games. It's going to be really, really tough.
It'll be tough. I don't have them winning. Again, it could go either way. It could be one of those things where they end up being at the top of that conference and it goes really great for them, or it could go south quick after South Alabama.
That's true.
Because, I've got them losing Florida State and Tulane. I got them winning the next 3. And then, obviously, we both got them losing South Alabama. It's a pick 'em game with App State. You got them losing, or App State losing. I got App State winning. Got a UL Monroe that's a win there. But then they could easily go 0-3 the last 3 games, or they could go 3-0.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
I'm not sold on Mississippi State,
No.
Louisiana, and Troy. You know, going to be quality games, so they could go 1-2, or it'll depend. A lot goes into it, so it could go south really quickly, or they could end up having a good year. It's one of those. It's one of those weird schedules. They got one of those weird schedules where it could work out in their favor, or it could be just disastrous.
Yep, absolutely. Really could be. Jumping into Texas State, got a new head coach, got a lot of transfer. I mean, honestly, this team resembles kind of similar to what Colorado's done and Coach Prime has done with like a total flip of the roster. I think it's damn near the same amount of roster turnover as Colorado had, if I'm not mistaken. And so I think there's going to be a lot of energy and excitement in this program. And I love that.
I don't know how many wins. Yeah, I don't know how many wins that equates to.
I
do
agree.
And it's the same with Colorado. I do think there's some excitement there. I'm tempering my expectations, and not to get too off topic from the Sun Belt, but I'm tempering my expectations with Prime in Colorado. I do think there's a lot of people who want to see them fail, just because of how he comes in his bravado, right? I mean, he's Coach Prime, right? You either love him or you hate him. I personally think he's the greatest football player to have ever lived. That's controversial. I know there's going to be some people that say Tom Brady. There's going to be some people, who, what's a linebacker, Giants linebacker?
Lawrence Taylor?
Lawrence Taylor. Jeez, I don't know how I forgot LT. But yeah, I mean, there's some controversy. I think he's the greatest football player to have ever lived. He's the only player that I know that I have ever seen in my entire life return a punt, catch a pass out of from a receiver spot, run the football, and defend the pass all in the same game and do it at an elite level. There's That's no insane. One who, so
plus he played baseball too.
Yeah, I mean, what are we doing? A home run and a punt return for a touchdown in the same week? Come on, man. He took a helicopter to the games. What are we doing? What are we doing? I mean, it's Prime.
Insanity.
Yeah.
But
anyway, I know we're off topic, but I think there's going to be some people who want to see them do well, and there's going to be some people that are on the other side of that. So I think, to your point, from a Texas State standpoint, there's a lot of similarities as it relates to that.
Yeah, no, I think when you say off topic, I don't think you're off topic. I think maybe to the point of maybe people wanting to see him fail or not. Maybe obviously that's a little different because I don't.
Sure, that's a big part. Yeah.
Yeah, Kenny doesn't have that kind of reputation or rapport yet because he hasn't been at this level just yet. I do think they have. They're going to probably recruit Texas pretty well. He just seems like a Texas guy. When he spoke at Sunbelt Media Days, I was really impressed with how he spoke and how serious he seems to take it. But he had some interactions with the players that, they were still kind of laughing and joking. So it's just enough of like both sides of the thing, like almost in a totally different way, but kind of like the Saban approach. Like, he's going to get the respect and admiration of his players, but behind closed doors, he's a lot more personable than he might seem up front. And I think that's kind of how Saban is too in that regard.
Well, yeah. And two, a lot of things, we can say whatever we want, but a lot of it comes down to W's and L's. That's it.
Yep.
You can be whoever you want to be if you're winning. Nick Saban is who we think he is because, they win and everybody loves him, but he can be hard on those guys sometimes. And even when they are winning, there's still some things he's another one of those coaches that talks to his team through the media. And because they're Alabama, it makes sense because, again, it's going to be top of mind right on their phone. But, when you win, it covers up everything. And I think regardless of what kind of person we perceive Texas State's coach to be, if they start winning, if he gets this thing turned around, it ain't going to matter. It ain't going to matter. Winning is winning. And that's the cure-all. So
speaking of winning, I don't have them doing it for the first 2 weeks. Baylor and UTSA, not ready yet. Not ready for that. So welcome to Texas football. Not that he needs the welcome. He's been down there in Texas when he's coming up from Incarnate Word, I believe it was, that he was the coach at. But I had them rebounded with Texas State and Nevada. I'm not sure if you agree with that, or not Texas State. Jackson State. Sorry. Which,
Tom's not there anymore. Should do.
Yeah, but at the same time, I was way more impressed with Jackson State from what I saw from them this weekend. I watched the whole game. I can't lie about it, but I watched enough of it that I'm like, okay, this team.
Right. No,
they
and
didn't fall off
he
that
left.
bad.
And he left them in good hands. They had some really good assistant coaches there, and they've got a really good nucleus. Their core team. I mean, obviously, Shedeur and Shiloh. They're going to leave. They're going to go with their dad. They had a couple others. What's the corner receiver guy can do everything? Number 12.
Yeah. Oh
I
gosh.
forgot his name, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yes. Yes.
He obviously left. But apart from that, I mean, they kept the nucleus fairly intact, and they got Jackson State's got some talent, and they've got some coaching down there.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to do well. I just don't think well enough to beat Texas State yet. I think they lose to Nevada. Texas State does.
Okay.
I think Southern Miss is going to be a tough game, but I think Southern Miss beats them. Louisiana beats them, and then UL Monroe, they bounce back.
Okay. So we flipped two games. I got a win over Nevada and a loss to ULM.
Okay.
So those are the two we flipped. We agree on Southern Miss, Louisiana. What about Troy?
I know you use the term trap game. The week before, I can't remember who Troy has the week before, but I think that'll determine how they come into this game. And I hope they don't take them lightly, but it could very easily. I got Troy winning, just so that's out there.
Okay.
But I think it could go either way.
To push the trap game narrative, they travel to Army the week before traveling to Texas State. So Troy does face a little bit of all the way up here, all the way down here.
Right.
Maybe that changes your perspective, or at least, you can see why I went with them beating Troy.
Right.
Again, on a basis of Troy versus last year versus Texas State, you're crazy, you're stupid. That's a bad pick. I think these teams are going to be both different, especially by this point of the season. You're closing in on the halfway point. So I think that's where these things change. So I've got them jumping up and kind of surprising a Troy team there. I do have them with 4 straight losses to end the season after that, though.
Yeah, it's kind of geared to say that's unfortunate. Those last few games.
Maybe Arkansas State. Do you agree
maybe
or disagree with
Arkansas
State? Yeah,
I think Arkansas State's too much, and I think obviously Georgia Southern, Coastal, and South Alabama are too much.
So we've got
honestly, I've got them going 0-5 the last 5 games. I don't see them winning after UL Monroe. I don't see them winning anymore. But law of averages say at some point you've got to win. If they do, maybe Arkansas State, but I've got them losing the last 5.
Last 5. Okay. So overall record wise, we're very similar. We both might have right at 3-9-ish range. 1 or 2 wins in conference at the most.
I think there'll be some tough games, right?
Yeah.
I think their losses won't be blowouts.
I agree.
Maybe it'll get blown out by South Alabama, maybe by Coastal, maybe by Georgia Southern, obviously Baylor and UTSA. But the rest, I think, will be very close games.
Yeah. And I think I don't think the Baylor one's going to be all that close. UTSA.
No. That won't.
UTSA is playing Tennessee game 1. Did they get beat up a little bit there? It plays into it, but UTSA is playing at home, so there's another aspect. They're very good at home. That one should still be a little closer because of some of the the stuff that happens the week before. But I guess we'll see how that plays out. We will jump into what is our last team as we get to last year's Sun Belt champions, the Troy Trojans. As we've said, we do not see a repeat happening. I don't think they're going to have any problem with Stephen F. Austin, so I'll go ahead and say that. But you are then going on the road to face the winner of the Big 12 last year, somehow, some way, Kansas State.
Don't know how that happened.
No, I have no idea. And the team that you talk about from Big 12 last year is TCU because where they ended up. But Kansas State actually won the conference. So I don't have them winning that one. And then James Madison. This is going to be a fun matchup. It's early enough in the season. No matter how bad or good anybody starts, it's still going to be one of those matchups you don't want to miss. I have them beating James Madison because I think there's enough talk going on between fan bases, especially maybe some of the players saying, we should have been in that championship game last year. We could have matched up with you, could have beat you, could have had a better game. Whatever they're saying, it could be true. And what we're going to see that play out on the field. I'm excited for that one. How do you see those first 3 games working out, TJ?
Yeah, I got to win against Steve F. Austin, loss against Kansas State. James Madison will be a fun matchup. I think they pull it out. And then, like you said, Western Kentucky, that's going to be a tough one. I think they've got some, like you said, I'm really just echoing you at this point. I do have them winning against Western Kentucky. But I think it'll be tough.
I'm sticking with the fact that this Western Kentucky offense just matches up really well against Sun Belt defenses.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it's just something that just doesn't go well for the Sun Belt teams defensively.
Yeah.
And I think had they played Troy's defense of last year, they probably would have matched up very well. Troy's defense was just outstanding, but they lose Carlton Marshall. I think he's literally the statistical tackling leader. So he's the best tackler at the linebacker position in college football history with the most amount.
Insane.
They lose him. Yeah. And so he's got to be that leader of that defense. They also lost I can't remember if it's a defensive tackle or defensive end, one of their better players to just be kicked off the team entirely for something off the field related. So they're taking a hit on the defensive side of the ball. And I think against a team like Western Kentucky, who can just do whatever they want by throwing it all over the field, which Coach Helton's brother from Georgia Southern is leading the charge there at Western Kentucky. So that's a little bit of an interesting aspect. They're not really going head-to-head, but maybe they'll try and work out something schedule-wise if they're both still at those schools down the road. So I have them losing to Western Kentucky, but I have them going on a 3-game win streak versus Georgia State, Arkansas State, and Army. I'm sure you're going to have some difference of opinion there, but what's that 3-game stretch like for you?
So, no, actually, I got them winning 4 in a row. Georgia State, Arkansas State, Army, and Texas State. I think they win all 4 of those. I think, obviously, they lose to South Alabama. And then I think they win ULM. I think they lose to Louisiana. And I think they lose to Southern Miss to close out.
So it sounds like we're really on the same page as far as overall record. We just have 1 or 2 losses flipped in.
I think that's been the theme for us. Same record, different losses.
Yeah. And so overall, that's the drop we're talking about, folks. That's it. That we just explained it by going through the schedule about how Troy falls off. It's not that they got so much worse or anything. It's just they're playing teams that have gotten better, and they might have lost just enough that with those close victories last year aren't going to be close victories this year. And Gunnar Watson is going to be a big-time determining factor on that. If he cleans up those interceptions, we may look stupid. We may look silly at the end of this. But I think it's not just the offensive side of the ball. It's the defensive side of the ball. I just don't know if they're going to be as well-rounded as a team. But I will tell you this. Coach Summerall has a saying with his team that he implemented last year, which is, so what, now what? I love that. Because that's essentially what he kept harking into his guys after the App State win. Well, App State did win, but the loss they suffered at App State. So what? Now what? What are you going to do about it, right? Rebound, recover, and keep playing the season. And it's a good thing they listened, because look where they ended up. They ended up in the top 25 to end the year. And beating a ranked UTSA team in a bowl game where a lot of people didn't think they'd stand a chance, honestly. So, I mean, congratulations to Troy on such an outstanding season last year, but we are here to tell you that it will be incredibly difficult to replicate that for a second season in a row.
100% agree.
Real quick, we'll go through week 1, just quick hits because we kind of talked about all these. Thursday night, Georgia State, Rhode Island. We've got Georgia State winning that one. Saturday starts off the rest of the slate for the conference. App State against Gardner-Webb. We had App State winning that game. UCLA versus Coastal Carolina. We both favored UCLA, unless I'm mistaken there, TJ, right?
Yep. That Chip Kelly offense, I think, is going to be a bit too much, and then that West Coast travel.
Yep. Citadel goes to Georgia Southern. We favored the Eagles in that one. Bucknell travels to JMU. Again, another FCS opponent. No problem there. Yet again, another FCS opponent as Albany travels to Marshall. We have Marshall winning that one. You picked Old Dominion to beat Virginia Tech, or was that not a pick? I can't remember.
No. I did not pick ODU to beat Virginia Tech. Absolutely not. Okay. Sorry, gotcha. ODU friends.
That I couldn't remember. I knew, we had the hatred for ODU.
No, I picked JMU I picked JMU to beat Virginia.
That's what it was. Gotcha. And that one doesn't happen until week 2. So, yes,
Right.
we have Virginia Tech beating ODU. We have Arkansas State hanging real close, but losing to Oklahoma. No, I'm just kidding. We have Oklahoma in a comfortable victory, unfortunately. We do have Louisiana taking care of another FCS opponent, Northwestern State. You had Army over ULM in week 1. Is that correct?
My hope. That is my hope.
Yeah.
Army over
Okay.
ULM. But, it'll be a tough game. I think I'm not going to be surprised either way.
Yeah.
But my hope is for Army.
I absolutely agree with you. I won't. Nothing in that game would surprise. I mean, well, I say this: if either team blows either one out, I would be surprised.
Sure. That would surprise. Yeah.
Right, but if this one's close and either team wins, yeah, again, I agree with you. Not at all surprised. I'm taking ULM mainly because me it was a toss-up playing at home. South Alabama versus Tulane. We've got our team in the Sun Belt taking out the ranked Tulane green wave there. So we have South Alabama starting us off hot with a big victory. We have Southern Miss taking out Alcorn State. We have Texas State dropping a game to Baylor. Not much of a surprise there. And then we finish up the night with Stephen F. Austin going down to Troy, as we think Troy will still take care of business early in the season against an FCS opponent in the Lumberjacks. That pretty much wraps it up, TJ. I mean, I think that bodes pretty well. Again, if we end up in the 6, 7, 8 teams with bowl eligibility in the end of the season, I think that's another fantastic year for the Sun Belt. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think we get 6. Like I said, I'm high on Georgia Southern, high on App State, high on Coastal. JMU is obviously not bowl eligible, but then you've got South Alabama, you've got Troy, and who else did we say? Let's see, Coastal, App State, Georgia Southern,
South Alabama, Louisiana.
Troy.
Did you cover Louisiana?
Troy, and Louisiana. So
Yeah.
those are my 6.
That's it. Yep. I had one more. I had the fact that we would match. Southern Miss was one you didn't mention, right?
Yes, I did not mention Southern Miss.
That's my one that, my prediction is pretty crazy. I got them going 9-3, but even if they fall short of that, 6 wins is what it takes to get there.
Yeah.
So I think they could at least get to 6 wins.
Yeah.
TJ, where can people follow you at or see the food that you're making? I know that I follow that. That's probably my favorite thing, man. He put up a video the other day of him crunching on what was that you were crunching on?
Yeah, I made some pork skins. I made some homemade pork cracklings the other night. So, you can follow me on Instagram at Thick Thighs and Large Fries. Certainly, see, I don't really reveal a ton of recipes there, but you can certainly see the process and follow me there for some good Southern, because North Carolina is in the South, some good Southern cooking. But yeah, you can find me there on Facebook as well at TJ Corman. And on Instagram for my personal page at TJ Corman as well.
Nice, very nice. We'll hopefully get something together. We'll see if we can find that tailgate spot we were at for the UNC game last time, and see if we get some video footage for these fine people as they continue to check us out here. You can follow the both of us on Sunbelt Syndicate on just about every social platform you can think of. The only one that's different is Twitter, or X, as the kids are calling it. And that's just got to eliminate the E because it's just one letter too long. But other than that, check out some game previews on College Football Dogs this week of the Sun Belt, of not the Sun Belt. We were going to try and cover as many of the matchups as we can until those games kick off on Thursday night. There's a good slate Thursday night, and we do have a Sun Belt team going, and the rest of the games kick off Saturday. So until next time, thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you later.